Hi, I'm Unique Model, aka Shantae Renee P for Positivity, and this is a channel for love and healing. I want you to know that love begins with you. Be the love you want to see manifest in your life, and it will come. So this is my series, Read My Book With Me If You Please, My Ultimate Act of Vulnerability, which is my book that's available on Amazon KDP. We are still in chapter July 2020, and this is my most vulnerable poem letter that I'm posting to date. So I am I'm just as nervous as the first couple of videos. So it is a pretty lengthy letter, but hey, put it in the book, and yeah, I gotta read it. So I'm basically coming all the way out the spiritual closet as well, so a little nervous about it. So this letter is called My Journey Started. My journey started when I was devastated by my brother's death. Initially, it was surreal. Then the reality of it came upon me like the ocean during high tide. Realizing that I would never see him, hug him, talk to him, or hang out with him again, I spiraled downwards. Accompanying this tragedy was a strained marriage, brought on by deployment after deployment and moves to various states. I hit rock bottom. Unable to function, I finally sought help from a psychiatrist in Hilton Head, South Carolina. This is where I learned of my bipolar diagnosis. Not wanting to fully accept it, but knowing something had to be true about it in some form or fashion. It was mainly because of my maternal family history with mental illness. But is it really mental illness? The downward spiral continued. A teenage daughter that refused to conform, a husband that sought emotional connection elsewhere, and two younger children that were the product of going it sometimes alone because I was unable to go it with them. With multiple medications on board and through trial and error, I obtained a short-lived stability in which I was able to return to nursing until it and everything else took a toll on me. Not being able to work or let alone function left my husband wanting someone else. Why couldn't he understand what I was going through? How could he tell me over and over to snap out of it? Multiple medications that zombied me out and gave me tics and tremors, along with strange body movements, is what I endured for months. Some aspects were so awful I couldn't drive at night or watch TV in a darkened room because of rapid blinking. ER visits because of uncontrolled shaking. Angry and violent outbursts because I couldn't deal or just was unable to get out of bed. Eventually, I would find a medication that worked for a while, but not without side effects. By 2012, I had picked up drinking to numb and deal with the symptoms the medications couldn't fix. Functioning better than I had before, I had secured a job at my old hospital before moving to Northern Virginia. I worked there when I first became a nurse back in 2004. While my husband was stationed in DC. It was nice to be around familiar faces, but that was also short-lived. Working days and nights in the same week and increased drinking became my downfall. Back pain and sciatica also accompanied the situation. By a year and a half in, I had quit my job after an elective outpatient surgery that ended me into ICU for a few days later with aspiration pneumonia. Medications didn't work the same after that. When I thought it couldn't get any worse, it did. Not being able to afford the house we were renting, we moved on base where the downward spiral continued. My husband's and my relationship became strained once again, and I didn't want to live anymore. Moving out of our bedroom and watching depressing, violent TV shows didn't help the situation. So one night I took pills, but became scared and texted family and friends. Ended up in the hospital, but I was fine physically. The trauma was mental, and I didn't believe I could go on. Leading up to that moment, I asked God, why am I here? Why didn't you take me instead of my brother? I'm the bad one. I would ask God not to wake me up the following day. So a short stay in the psych ward catapulted a series of events that led my path. Continuing my dance with alcohol as early as 5 a.m. became my norm. Drink, sleep, TV, cook, dinner, and repeat. Psych therapy appointments often. Depression seemed to also hit everyone in the house. Eventually, we ended up with my grandsons, and that gave me a reason to get up every day. I didn't always enjoy it, but at least I had a reason to fight to live another day. We still had financial issues, but ended up moving off base, renting from a friend. Things seemed to be getting better, and my daughter finally joined us to reunite with her children. My husband expressed to me he would retire at 40, but a few months prior decided to take a promotion and headed to California. Our children and I stayed in Northern Virginia, and I knew that was the end of our marriage. I was able to get a couple of jobs by way of a friend that I could not keep because I was not in a good place. Having everyone home at one time or another without the physical support of my spouse did a number on me. Drinking to quiet and numb the pain and thoughts, I ended up with legal issues and ultimately a dismantling of our family unit. I was left alone, and I've never felt so alone in my life. I turned to men and alcohol to feel something, anything for a short burst of time. Men that treated me poorly because I did not, because I did not love myself. If I didn't love myself, how could I expect someone else to? The universe finally stepped in to save me from myself yet again. I was without transportation, so I was unable to go towards destruction. But me being who I am, I brought destruction to me. One night, feeling extremely low, I drank a lot of wine and followed it by a tea spiked with bleach. At that point, I blacked out, but still was able to call people who later told me to call 911. Yet another hospital stay. After being discharged, I returned to my lonely home and dove deeper into depression. Coming to the realization that I was the common denominator in the issues with my family, I couldn't handle it. Going days without talking to anyone, I started hearing things. Muffled talking, music, and at times demonic breathing. Seeing light beams upon turning over in bed, asking them to keep it down. I literally had lost it, or so I thought. Dreams about my life, but various versions that left me drained and depressed the next day. Anxiety consumed me, and I just wanted it to stop. I would later find out that I'm clairaudient, among other things, and my mind was quiet. My friends and family couldn't take me anymore, and I felt I had lost everything. Still legally married, but divorcing, my husband moved me to my nana's in Virginia and went on to start his life in Michigan. My youngest daughter went with him. My son would eventually move to Northern Virginia, and my oldest daughter ended up here near me. Our relationships were strained and at times non-existent. My immediate family relationships continue on an ebb and flow pattern. I know one day they will get better. As I tried to find myself in this familiar but new place, I began to get better. I would lose myself in wreath making, smoking, and writing to get through the weeks and months. Then one day I questioned God again. Why wasn't he showing me mercy? I told him I would rather be with him because being here was too damn painful. I started to question religion, heaven and hell, proclaiming that if he loved us so much, why is there hell? Why are there so many religions that cause division? That has brought me to where I am today, questioning everything, understanding we are more than human beings. We are souls encapsulated in skin and hair. I started reaching out to psychics because religion wasn't telling me the whole story. The more I reached out, the more I needed to know. A few interactions with ill-intended men, and then I would reach out to someone in particular. We had interacted with each other a year and a half back, but he disappeared. Surprisingly, he called. I saw him, spoke a few times afterwards, and he disappeared again. Our initial contact since high school left me yearning for him. I'm positive he felt the same, but he never said it. After seeing him in November of 2018, I started watching tarot card readings and figured out it was something to this connection. I started having strange sensations throughout my body, but didn't understand what was actually happening to me. After speaking with friends and knowing from my upbringing this was taboo, and I was able to turn it off. It wasn't until January of 2020 I would start to understand what had been and what is still going on. I've taken an interest in the spiritual world and the unknown, at least unknown to me. The strange sensations reappeared and continued to appear. After our encounter, the sensations went into overdrive, and I wonder if he felt it too. By this time, I had no doubt he was and is my soulmate, my twin flame, and my mirror. I have not been able to let go of him, and he continues to push me away. He triggered old deep wounds within me that I thought I had worked through. Wounds of abandonment, lack, not fitting in, and not being good enough had resurfaced. As I researched more and learned more, I came to realize this is how it's supposed to be. I have come to accept myself just as I am. Faults, shadow side, uniqueness, craziness, along with creativeness as who I truly am. I no longer apologize for being myself. I no longer try to fit in. I'm still a work in progress. Accept me for me or get on with your day. I hope I have triggered the same healing within him. This journey of deep sorrow and undeniable bliss has made me who I am today. I wouldn't change it for the world. I hope by sharing part of my journey, I can help someone else. Thank you for taking the time to read. So, when I wrote this, I was thinking back about everything that I had been going through. A particular situation had happened in January 2019, and I was feeling really, really depressed. So I believe that's when my dark night of the soul started, and I was hearing things, I was seeing things when I would wake up in the middle of the night. And mind you, I'm on psych meds, and I'm just like, I'm really losing it. And then some days I would go without talking to anyone. So I'm like, I'm over here losing it. Every time I close my eyes, I'm dreaming. Like, it was dreams of basically being tortured. Dreams of it's like every scenario you could think of, I was dreaming it of why my marriage didn't work out. And then in one of the dreams, I actually died. And I didn't realize I was dead. The people were like trying to get me out of the car, but I'm like, I'm right here and nobody's looking up. And I'm like, bitch, you still in the car? Oh, yeah. So when people say that you die, if you die in your dreams, you die for real now. So yeah. Just all types of things. So I really thought that I was losing my damn mind. But then when I ended up moving back home, the dream stopped for a while. So I was able to get a break and try to like regroup myself. But then a couple months later, they started again. I'm like, oh, I need more meds because, yeah, I'm having the same issue again. So I ended up actually adding something else to my medication regimen. But I also had started working on myself and figuring out that I needed to start loving myself and trying to figure out how I was going to go about doing that, and working on myself. So the more I started meditating and, you know, being still and trying to be in the moment, getting guidance from YouTube and a couple of other paid psychics. So I'm just trying to figure stuff out, because I know with Christianity, to me, it boxes you in. I'm a person, you can't box me in, because I think outside the box. You just cannot box me in. And if you tell me something, I need some proof. And, you know, with God being who we say he is and who we know he is, some of this stuff was just not adding up. I'm like, we can have hell on earth. Why would he condemn us to a lake of fire? That just don't make sense to me. So, you know, those things, you know, the things we use, tarot cards, Bibles, prayer, meditation, grounding, you know, all that stuff is just tools that we use to get through our days and to learn more about ourselves. And with the clairaudience, I learned earlier last year, I would think something and then my daughter would say it. I'm just like, what? And it kept happening. And then after she had the last baby, I'm looking at her, she's holding the baby. I'm like, bitch, you got a whole light around you. It's like gold. Huh. So I looked that up. I was like, oh, when newborns are born, they have like a golden aura for like 30 days or so. I was like, okay, so that's what's going on with that. And then I noticed, like when I would be home, all of a sudden I would just feel something in my heart space, and it's like, reach out to my daughter, and she was like, no, I'm fine. And then eventually she was like, how were you knowing to call me? Those times that you called me, I was lying. It was something wrong with me. And I'm like, well, thank you for validating, because I'm over here thinking I'm losing my damn mind. So she's kind of like the guinea pig. It's like things will happen. I kind of like figure out what's going on with her. And like, oh, okay, this is why I'm feeling this. And this is why I'm feeling this. And then notice that after I went off medications in June and started more natural supplements, I do not recommend going off medication without your doctor's approval, doctor supervision. Okay. I am not operating as a medical professional, so I don't have that authority. So I started doing things for myself that I did research on, you know, taking, what am I doing? Black seed oil, and I use essential oils. It's actually black seed oil capsules and sea moss capsules, take vitamins, and try to, you know, do alkaline water and eat a more, you know, healthier diet. So that's how I'm managing my symptoms and doing more meditations and things. So, and I noticed once the medications were like out of my system after going through the withdrawals, I became more sensitive to energy. It was easier to pick up on the negative energy, like somebody's emotions, if they were mad for whatever. I could like actually feel it in my body, like it's creeping into my space. And then once I learned some techniques like return to sender, send that shit back, it ain't mine. Yeah. And it just goes away. I was like, oh wow, that's neat. So I find this stuff like very fascinating. And actually over the past couple of days, my sensitivity has now increased. Got to do some research on it, but I am now able to pick up on kids. I was like, wait a minute. And I picked up on 3-4 different kids. I have 4 grandkids, so that's ultimately, I see now, because I was asking God, why am I here? What's my purpose in this situation that I'm in right now? If you watch a few of the other videos, you'll see that I was living with my dad, but he gave me an eviction notice and all that shit. So I'm now staying with my daughter, my grandkids, and her husband. So, you know, trying to figure out what is my purpose and why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to be learning? So you ask and you shall receive. So I know one part I'm supposed to lead by example to show my daughter, because she's going through her own things, being a young mom. So helping her with the kids, and now also I've had, now I have increased sensitivity. And it's a lot, especially since I just picked it up in the past couple of days, and I should have known something was going on, because the energy in the house, my grandkids, they like Energizer bunnies. They just be all over the place, and I'm like always drained. So it was like 2 nights ago, I was like, I have to get out of here. I'm used to being able to go walk and sit by the water and just like kind of like regain some type of peace. But since I moved, I haven't been able to do that. And I walk in the grass with no shoes on. So I went for a walk and I heard hug a tree. I was like, who hugging a tree? Ain't nobody hug no tree. So I did go lean up against the tree and smoke my cigarette and, you know, started repeating, I'm grounded, I'm at peace, my roots are as deep as this tree's roots. And all of a sudden I started to actually feel better. I'm like, look at that. Shout out to the tree huggers. I just didn't want to do it because I was like, people will be looking at me like I done lost my damn mind. But I see me doing it in the future because that shit actually works. So there's more confirmation why I'd rather be outside than in the house, because I'm very sensitive to things and to energy. Another thing, the 2 attempts that I had, my 2 suicidal attempts, one I was sober, one I wasn't. What sticks out to me is those 2 houses I did not pray over. Normally, you know, when you move into a new house, you know, we used to, I know in the black churches, had that oil that somebody prayed over. I would go through the house, anoint the windows, the doors, say my prayer, you know, anything negative ain't supposed to be here. Yeah. So, but I wasn't in a place where I felt the need to do that those last 2 places that I actually tried to commit suicide. And look what happened. But, you know, everything happens for a reason. I'm still here. Couldn't take myself out. Tried. And it wasn't just suicide attempts. I've been there. I've done some things. I'm just like, girl. Whew. All right. So now I know I went through those things so I could be where I am today, so I can help other people get through their difficult situations, because that was some difficult stuff to work through, and I'm still working through stuff, but I'm in a much better headspace, a much better place where I'm trying to master my emotions. For the most part, I'm good. As long as I got some cigarettes in, I'm good. But I think that's enough talking. This is like the longest video I've had. It's like 20 minutes. So, sending you love and healing. I appreciate you. Thank you to my new subscribers. Like, share, comment, subscribe. I don't say that because I'm not used to it. This is still kind of new to me. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you. And make sure you're appreciating yourself, because if you don't show yourself what you want to see in your life, yeah, it's not gonna happen. So make sure you're appreciating yourself and you're loving yourself every day, and the rest will start to fall into place. It may seem like it's taking a while, but it'll come. All right, sending you love and healing. I appreciate you. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.